Ever wonder what happens when the boss, who ruined your first job, ends up begging you for one? At 21, fresh out of college, I landed an internship at a tech startup run by a man named Victor Hayes, a legend in the industry, or so people said. To me, he was a tyrant in a tailored suit. I was shy, ambitious, and desperate to prove myself, but Victor saw only a target. "You're too soft for this world," he'd sneer when I hesitated before presenting an idea. Once, during a team meeting, I nervously pitched a redesign for our user interface. Something I'd stayed up 3 nights perfecting. Victor laughed. Not a small chuckle, a full mocking roar. "Sweetheart," he said, glancing around the room, "why don't you stick to fetching coffee before you try redesigning the internet?" The room went quiet. My face burned, but I forced a smile and nodded. I went home that night and cried until my throat ached. A week later, he reassigned my project to another intern, a guy who barely knew how to code, and still took credit for the idea himself. For months, I endured his snide comments and impossible demands. The final straw came during a product launch when he publicly blamed me for a server crash I hadn't even been responsible for. I was humiliated in front of investors, clients, and the entire team. That night, I quit, not quietly. I walked into his glass-walled office, placed my ID badge on his desk, and said, "One day, you'll work for someone like me." He laughed again, of course. To him, I was just another replaceable intern, but that humiliation became my fire. I took freelance gigs, learned everything I could about design, marketing, leadership, and business management. I built apps, failed, built again. Joined startups, got burned, founded my own. 10 years later, my name was on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. 15 years later, my company had acquired 6 competitors, including, eventually, Victor's old firm. When the acquisition was finalized, we offered positions to a few of their senior executives. Guess whose resume landed in my inbox? Stripped of arrogance, dressed in desperation. Victor Hayes. I almost didn't recognize the tone of his cover letter. Gone was the smugness. Instead, eager to contribute my experience under strong leadership, I invited him for an interview. He walked in looking smaller somehow, his once perfect confidence now brittle. It took him a few seconds to realize who I was. "You," he breathed. "Me," I said calmly, sliding his application across the desk. "I've been reviewing your career history. It seems there's a pattern of, well, let's call it difficult leadership. High turnover, burned teams, missed deadlines. Sound familiar?" He swallowed hard, eyes darting to the floor. "I think," I continued, "after all these years, it's time for you to take on a new challenge. Perhaps something more suited to your temperament. We have an opening in customer support." His jaw clenched. "Customer support? Entry level," I clarified with a polite smile. "You'd report to a young manager named Daniel. Brilliant kid, and the kind you would have dismissed 15 years ago." He said nothing, just stared at the resignation of his own power. I leaned back. "You taught me an important lesson, Victor. You made me tougher, smarter. You tried to humiliate me, and it only made me unstoppable. So thank you for that." He didn't take the offer, of course. Walked out without another word. As the door closed behind him, I thought of that trembling intern clutching her coffee cup, too scared to speak up. She'd finally gotten the last word, not by shouting louder, but by building something so big that silence became her victory speech.